Did you know that Angelina Jolie once walked down the aisle in rubber pants with her husband's name written in blood on her shirt? That shocking act was only the first in a sequence of high-profile relationships that would define, and at times haunt, one of Hollywood's most powerful women. From her early wild child days to the world-conquering Brangelina era, her love life has been as public and controversial as her films. But behind every headline-making romance lies a story of ambition, heartbreak, and transformation. Why did she move so fast through marriages? What led to the collapse of each union? And how did a woman who built her career on power and control give that up in the name of love? Stay with me, because her story is far from what the tabloids tell. Born on June 4, 1975, in Los Angeles, Angelina was destined for the spotlight. Her father, actor Jon Voight, won an Oscar before she could walk. But when he left the family, Angelina learned early that love could vanish without warning. That wound shaped her forever. She became obsessed with independence, rebellion, and proving she didn't need anyone. But deep inside, she always searched for the love her parents lost. Could that be why she fell so hard, so fast, and so dangerously in love later in life? Angelina met Jonny Lee Miller in 1995 on the set of Hackers. They were both wild, restless, and living on cigarettes and dreams. A year later, at just 20 years old, she married him wearing rubber pants and a white shirt with his name scrawled in her own blood. To her, that wasn't strange, it was honest. But honesty couldn't hold them together. Her fame was rising fast, his was still climbing. They lived in different cities, chasing different lives. By 1997, distance replaced passion, and their marriage quietly dissolved. They divorced in 1999 but never stopped caring for each other. Even years later, Angelina was seen visiting him in New York with wine and laughter. It was her first lesson in love, that passion burns bright, but timing decides if it survives. What if they had met a few years later, would it have lasted? While filming Foxfire in 1996, Angelina met model and actress Jenny Shimizu. She once admitted, "I would have married her if I hadn't already married Jonny." It was her first time falling for a woman, and it shocked Hollywood. Back then, stars hid such stories. Angelina didn't care. She said love was love. No labels, no apologies. Their romance didn't last long, but it defined how she viewed connection, as something spiritual, not confined by gender or rules. Jenny described her as fearless, intense, and loyal. It was short, but it changed Angelina forever. From that point, she never hid who she was again. But would the world forgive her for being so open in an industry built on secrets? In 1999, while filming Pushing Tin, Angelina met Billy Bob Thornton. He was 20 years older, unpredictable, and already engaged to actress Laura Dern. Within months, he left Dern and married Jolie in May 2000 in Las Vegas. The tabloids exploded. They wore necklaces filled with each other's blood, kissed passionately on red carpets, and talked about their sex life like it was art. To the world, they were chaotic, but to each other, it felt like freedom. For a while, they were inseparable. Angelina said she finally felt alive. But when she adopted her first child, Maddox, from Cambodia in 2002, their bond began to break. Billy Bob admitted he wasn't ready to be a father again. She was becoming more global, while he wanted peace and privacy. By 2003, their marriage was over. It was fast, loud, and unforgettable, the kind of love that burns too bright to last. When asked later, Angelina said she didn't regret it. It just wasn't meant to last forever. But deep down, could it be that she was already learning to fear how quickly love could vanish? Then came Mr. and Mrs. Smith. The year was 2004. Angelina was at her career peak, and Brad Pitt was the most famous man in the world, married to Jennifer Aniston. When Brad and Angelina met on set, sparks flew instantly. They denied any affair, but the chemistry was undeniable. By early 2005, Brad and Jennifer had separated, and soon after, he was photographed with Angelina in Africa, playing with her son Maddox. The world exploded. Overnight, she became the homewrecker, the villain in Hollywood's favorite marriage story. But for Angelina, it wasn't scandal, it was love. She said, "We fell in love doing something real." Together, they built a family and a brand. She adopted Zohara from Ethiopia. Brad adopted both Maddox and Zohara, and in 2006 they welcomed their first biological child, Shiloh. 2 years later, twins Knox and Vivian arrived. By 2009, they were raising 6 children, shooting movies, and doing humanitarian work worldwide. They looked invincible, the golden couple of the century. But how long can perfection survive under a microscope? Behind the smiles, the cracks were forming. Angelina had transformed from an actress into a humanitarian and film director. Brad focused on his production company and his love for architecture and wine. Their visions of life began to drift apart. Angelina valued discipline and privacy. Brad wanted freedom and adventure. By 2014, they finally married in a small ceremony in France with their children by their side. The world cheered. It looked like the fairy tale ending Hollywood had waited for. But behind the scenes, something had changed. Brad's drinking was becoming a problem. Angelina's patience was wearing thin. Their differences became louder than their love. Then came the flight. September 2016, a private jet from France to Los Angeles. Reports surfaced of an argument between Brad and one of their sons. The moment they landed, Angelina filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences. It was the end of an empire. How could two people who once conquered the world together fall apart mid-air? The custody battle was brutal. Angelina alleged emotional and physical abuse. Brad denied it, but his reputation took a hit. Years of court filings and private investigations followed. In 2021, Angelina sold her share of their French vineyard to cut all ties. By 2024, their divorce was finally settled. But through it all, she stayed silent, rarely speaking publicly about the details. Instead, she focused on her children. She said, "My family is my priority. The rest is noise." Her words sounded calm, but the scars were clear. She had loved 3 men, each in a completely different way, and lost them all to time, fame, or pain. Would she ever love again, or had Hollywood taken her heart for good? After her separation, Angelina turned inward. She began directing films like First They Killed My Father, 2017, inspired by her humanitarian work in Cambodia. She became a voice for refugees, women, and survivors of war. The same passion that once burned through her relationships now fueled her purpose. She often said she found healing in helping others, a way to turn pain into meaning. But even as she rebuilt, rumors never stopped. Every male friend became a potential new lover in the tabloids. She ignored it all. She focused on her children, her art, and her health. She spoke openly about undergoing preventive surgeries in 2013 after discovering a genetic cancer risk, a decision that inspired millions of women. For the first time in decades, Angelina was living not for love or fame, but for peace. And maybe that's when she finally began to understand herself. What happens when a woman who's been broken by love decides she doesn't need to be saved? By 2025, Angelina Jolie had evolved far beyond the woman who once scandalized Hollywood. She became the United Nations Special Envoy, traveling through war zones, meeting displaced families, and advocating for women's rights. The tabloids no longer defined her, her work did. Yet every so often, an interviewer would ask about love, and she'd smile and say, "I'm happy with my life." People still wonder if she'll ever marry again. Maybe she won't. Maybe she doesn't need to. Her story isn't about finding the perfect partner anymore. It's about surviving herself, learning from every heartbreak, and building something lasting out of all that pain. Because when love falls apart in public, only truth remains. And that truth is what makes Angelina Jolie different. She never pretended her life was perfect. She just kept living it, no matter how loud the world became. Angelina Jolie's love life reads like a Hollywood movie, thrilling, tragic, unforgettable. But what makes her story truly powerful isn't who she loved, it's what she became after losing them. Every heartbreak pushed her toward strength. Every scandal forced her to redefine what love means. She entered Hollywood as the wild daughter of Jon Voight, and became the woman who redefined beauty, motherhood, and fame itself. She may never escape the headlines, but she no longer needs to. Her legacy isn't just in her films or her lovers. It's in her resilience. So the next time you see Angelina Jolie on screen, Remember, you're not just watching an actress. You're watching a survivor who turned every ending into a new beginning. And maybe that's the real story Hollywood didn't expect to tell.